Hey, welcome back to How to Barbecue Right. We're continuing our series on the different types of smokers out there. I know everybody's looking for that perfect smoker, and I just wanted to kind of give you some info on the different types that are out and available. I got hanging out with my good buddy Mark Lambert today, and he's got a couple smokers that we're going to talk about. The first one is made by Ole Hickory Pits, and Ole Hickory is a name that's just been around competition, professional barbecue for a long time, and Mark's going to tell you a little bit about his Ole Hickory pit and how this one works. Mark, what model pit is this?
This is the Ace, and this is sort of the second generation of this particular size. And if you're around a lot of barbecue circles, people call it a mailbox. You'll hear mailbox term thrown out because it looks like a little mailbox. The original one in this size was called the Ultra Q. Now the difference between the Ace and the Ultra Q is the Ultra Q has gas. Like most pits, it's sort of a household pit made for pit masters that that are used to Ole Hickory pits in their restaurants. So they made it with gas assist. But for the competition guys, they actually removed the gas, kept the induction fan that feeds the gas feed system to regulate the charcoal. So you've got a charcoal box in the very back that feeds up through the back of the smoker, and the nice round, sort of semi-round shape of this thing, the heat and smoke comes around the top of the pit. And it's got 3 racks in it, standard with 2, but it has 3 very well in there, and it actually rotates around the top, and the induction fan feeds the proper amount of air to the firebox necessary to maintain the temperature that you set on the control itself. So it doesn't actually have convection, it just has that fan that regulates the temperature. So when you light it, it's a one-time light, it takes about 30-40 minutes to come up to temp. And really you can kind of leave it alone for about 6 hours or so unattended on one load of charcoal.
The reason why we wanted to show you the Ole Hickory Ace line is because this is kind of a pit that's perfect for people that are just getting into smoking at home or starting out in competitions, that you want that real wood and charcoal flavor, and you want a pit that's a little bit higher end. I mean, Ole Hickory's been making barbecue grills for a long time, and most of them are commercial based, but they have some lower priced residential beginner barbecue models that are just more bang for your buck when you're buying a brand like Ole Hickory.
Yeah, well, the great thing about them is that they're stainless throughout. So typically they're designed for restaurants. They're designed to meet NSF standards. They all are UL approved. So they meet all of the standards that most people in commercial environments are used to. And being stainless all through and through, it's kind of one of those all-weather pits that you can have on your back porch. You can throw a cover over it, but you can kind of leave it out, not have to worry about it rusting out year after year. So they get a little bit more per square foot of cooking surface than most pit manufacturers do, but it's going to last you from now on.
Okay, we wanted to show you the side view of this Ole Hickory Ace. And what I really like about the feature they put in these Ace ones, and I wish they had them in the CTOs like I cook on, is this pan that pulls out to catch your ash. I mean, that's an awesome design that they put in, because it really does keep the mess off your floor, off your patio, or off your barbecue trailer, wherever you're cooking. Then your firebox pulls out. Now you see Mark's putting his to use. You can burn lump charcoal or regular briquette charcoal in these. That's pretty much the fuel source for these Ole Hickory Aces. And then you add your wood as a supplement for smoke.
Typically when we start this guy, we'll fill this thing up with charcoal. You can use briquettes, you can use lump. And then I say fill it up. We made within 3/4 to 2/3 of the way up. Then we'll light a charcoal chimney, maybe a 1/2 to 3/4 of a charcoal chimney. And then we'll just pour that on the top of it, and we'll just sort of let it light its way from the top down. So we fill it up, pour the lit coal onto it, and it comes with a tool that actually hooks into this little hole right here. So you can slide it in and out of it. Then you slide that guy in, close your ash tray, and close it up. Make sure that your valve is closed so that it doesn't drain while you're cooking. Set your temperature and allow between 30 and 45 minutes for it to come up to temp and stabilize.
And what you don't see is there's actually a fan inside the firebox that's blowing air, keeping oxygen on the coals, and that's what's really driving that heat. The control, depending on what temperature you have it set on, there's a thermostat in there that's going to kick it on and off so it'll hold temp right within, where you set it. I know the Ole Hickories will stay at that constant temperature for hours. What kind of burn times are you seeing on the Ole Hickory Ace on one load of coal, Mark?
It's usually around 6 hours, and it varies on the type of coal and how you light it, of course. But the way we do it, around 6 hours, you can count on a good steady, between 250 and 275, roughly 6 hours.
Okay, we talked about how the Ace performs, how you control the temperature on it. Let's talk about some of the pros of it. Mark, what's some of your favorite things about this Ole Hickory?
Man, stainless steel construction. I mean, you can put this thing out in the weather. You don't have to worry about rust year after year. It's stainless through and through. It's going to last you from now on. The great thing also about it is it has a very small temperature difference from top to bottom because it's a dry smoker. So you don't have to worry about that water, changing your temperature from top to bottom.
But my favorite thing, it has to be that control system when you're talking about. It's easy. You pretty much set it just like an oven in your house.
You do.
You dial in what temperature you want right here on the dial, and the Ole Hickory control is going to keep it right there. So that's, the main advantage to me.
Well, you've got to, if any of you guys have ever heard of a barbecue guru, well, this is one of the first companies to ever build it into the unit. I mean, it's inherent in their logic and the way the cooker controls itself. It has its own guru built in. You set the temperature, it actually controls the precise amount of air to maintain the burn throughout the cook time.
So you don't have to fight a fire with the pit like this. This is one pit that you're really concentrating on your food versus manning a fire every couple hours or having to add to it.
One of the other great things about Ole Hickory is it is sort of a reverse flow as well. The temperature is controlled by the firebox in the bottom, and it has a chute that feeds the temperature up through sort of the direct fire up to the top, and then it's channeled around the front of the smoker, and then sort of gets its own somewhat natural convection from the induction fan.
Just over the shape of it.
Right, just because of the natural shape of it and the way the heat flows through. Well, the exhaust actually is stuck at the top, but it's a sort of a full-length exhaust, so it creates a little additional draw by having a double height exhaust chimney.
So it's taking all the shelves are in that smoke zone.
That's right.
So they're all getting, everything you put on there is getting adequate smoke at all levels. One thing about the Ace in particular that I like is the small footprint. I mean, you see me and Mark standing here beside it. It's not much bigger than than a Weber grill as far as what space it takes up around. But you get a lot of bang for your buck on what you can get on these racks. With that additional third shelf, I mean, we're talking, whole packer briskets, because you really can't tell the depth of these. Look how long these chefs are. I mean, you're getting whole briskets on here, whole shoulders, multiple pork butts, or I guarantee you can probably get at least a dozen racks of ribs on this one cooker for this size. So that's another advantage. Let's talk a little bit about some of the disadvantages, because with every cooker there's going to be some pros and cons, and then right away some of the disadvantages. First thing is the price, because the Ole Hickory Pits aren't cheap. You're paying for that craftsmanship, for that control unit, and for that stainless steel. I mean, that's things that you're going to have to pay for. Mark, what's some of the other cons? That I know you said something about you really like moving these things around.
Yeah, they're a ball to move around, and if you ever had to take one out of the back of a truck, it's a three-man job. I mean, this is around a 400-pound unit, and getting it out of the back of a truck is just really, it's a back-breaking adventure. And these wheels, you can see they're not huge. They're adequate, but they're not huge. When it goes across soft ground, they're not quite large enough either to absorb that extra weight and keep from sinking in. So this is a pit that's perfect for hard surface. It's perfect if you're not going to have to move it around a lot.
You're on your trailer, on your patio, areas where it's going to get and stay put.
If it's going to stay put, or you're just rolling a hard surface, it's hard to beat this pit for the money.
And lastly, the last probably negative or con that I can think of, Mark, is it's a little different cooking on dry heat. So if you're new to a smoker this style where it's just all dry heat, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve on knowing when to wrap your meat.
Yeah, if any of you guys have used water cookers, if you started off with the Weber Bullet, anything that has a water pan, there's a large temperature difference from top to bottom, and that's mainly because you've got water that controls the air at the bottom of the smoker. It's a maximum of 212 degrees, so the further away from the water you get, the hotter the potential temperature for the air. On a dry smoker, one thing you're going to find is the bark on the outside of the meat dries a little faster than it does on the backwoods,
which is typical for all dry heat cookers.
Yep.
I mean, That's part of the smoking process.
And when it dries out, those sugars are going to start to caramelize a little faster than when they have that moisture on top of them. But you're going to see your meat tend to color a little faster. So you may want to change maybe the amount of sugar in your rubs. You may want to baste a little more often or with something different than you did in the past. Or you may want to wrap your meat a little sooner. It's going to typically cook a little faster because of that as well. So it requires a little bit of practice. It's a great smoker, puts a great smoke flavor into the food. It just requires a little bit of attention to detail and knowing the difference in the type of smokers that you're dealing with.
That's right. So we talked about the pros and the cons and kind of how the Ole Hickory Ace works. Let's talk about some of the price range. And that's what everybody wants to know. How much can they get in one of these for? What's the low end on a Ole Hickory Ace versus the other models that Ole Hickory makes, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to start out for this one. You're going to start out in the neighborhood of $3,000. We're just going to use round numbers. The Ace BP, which is, if any of you are familiar with the Ole Hickory CTO, which has been out for years and years and years.
That's the model that I cook on every contest.
It's one of the best pits out there. They actually designed the Ace BP off of the CTO. They shrunk it down, took one of the racks out, so it has 3 racks, but it's the exact same rack size as the CTO. And to make it competition friendly, you don't have to worry about anyone saying you were using gas in a contest. They just removed the gas system altogether.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, I don't know how many contests people will walk by and see you hooked up to that bottle, and I always unhook mine every time.
Yeah, so they made it to where it operates almost as efficiently as it does with gas. Has the same convection system, the same footprint as the CTO. They just cut it off a little bit. 3 racks is typically what most people need in a contest anyway.
What are those mid-range prices for the Ole Hickory Pits?
You're going up to Ace BP, you're getting at the level of about $3,500 to $3,600. And then when you move up to the CTO, you're getting up to about $5,000. So there's definitely certain levels, but when you move to the CTO, they have the same type system in a CTO. It's called their MM for Mike Mills. Is kind of They made it just for him. He wanted a CTO without gas. It operates the exact same as this Ace JW or the Ace BP, and then you've got the CTO with gas.
So Ole Hickory Pits really are. They're making these lower end, more affordable residential, just into competition models. They've got the mid-range prices on their CTO models. And then if you're really, got a small barbecue business or you're into catering, they make that higher end that they're really known for, those big rotisserie ovens. If you need any more info on Ole Hickory Pits, I'm sure you can contact them on their website, or Mark will be glad to give you any info on any of those pits as well.
Contact me with any questions. I'm an Ole Hickory dealer. It's Mark at ssomd.com. Malcolm's cooks on them a bunch as well. He uses CTO every day in competition.
Every day. If I had to take one cooker to a contest with me, it's the Ole Hickory CTO. I've been cooking on one for years, and I know they make a fine product. So that's really what got me turned on to the Ole Hickory Pits. And I've cooked on just about several of the big models. I've cooked on the Ace a couple of times, and they're all really awesome cookers.
There's very few pits that sort of cross lines, and what I mean by cross lines, that you can use it in competition or you can use it for your catering, vending, or restaurant business. The CTO or the Ultra Q that are gas fired, they work just as well on straight charcoal as they do with the gas. Now they made the straight competitions model as well, like the Ace, the BP, the MM. Those are all contest units only because they burn charcoal and wood. But all the other ones, they're great to be able to set it and forget it in your driveway, on your back porch, in your restaurant, in your commissary, to turn quality food out hands-free that your staff can use as well. They don't require a ton of pitmaster training to learn how to turn out a quality product without you there.
All right, we talked about the Ole Hickory Ace pit today, so if you ever have any questions on it, you can hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. You can get in touch with Mark at ssomd.com. Thanks for checking out the video on the Smoker Series. We're going to keep putting some more out, some different smokers over the weeks. So come back, subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.